you today.
I am Monica C. Magbago.
I am Melanie May Milanes.
I am Elche Amor M. Gaspa.
I am Arky Manubis Guarin.
I am Kate Felipe B. de la Cruz.
I am Gino Argarejo, and I would like to introduce our topic that is all about the advantages and positive impacts and disadvantages and negative impacts of globalization. So now, I will just give you a brief introduction of the globalization nowadays. So first, what is globalization? Globalization is a term used to describe how trade and technology have made the world into a more connected and interdependent place. Globalization also captures in its scope the economic and social changes that have come about as a result. So now, in the 21st century, networks of economy, technology, politics, and ecology have all engulfed the world. This has weakened the claims of the nation states over sovereignty and cultural identity. Today, with the worldwide trade liberalization and the growing influence of multinational corporations, economic waves are freely flowing out, sometimes with tidal force. Information is traveling instantaneously around the globe through various social media networks. The integration of the rich and the poor nations is not without any consequence, which is one comes at the expense of the other. Rapid democratization of information, technology, and finance under globalization is turning out to be a remarkably progressive and liberating force globally.
Here's the list of advantages of globalization. Number 1. Increased free trade between nations. Increased liquidity of capital, allowing investors in developed nations to invest in developing nations. Corporations have greater flexibility to operate across borders. Global news media ties the world together. Increased flow of communications allows vital information to be shared between individuals and corporations around the world. Greater ease and speed of transportation for goods and people. Reduction of cultural barriers increase the global village effect. Spread of democratic ideas to developed nations. Greater interdependence of nation-state, reduction of likelihood of war between developed nations, and last, increase in environmental protection in developed nations.
Globalization is an established part of the modern world, so most of us do not realize the benefit it brings to our everyday lives, such as easy access to a variety of different cuisines or new technologies developed by countries half the world away. Globalization impacts businesses in many different ways, including: first, access to new cultures. Globalization makes it easier than ever to access foreign culture, including foods, movies, music, and art. Second, spread of technology and innovation. Many countries around the world remain constantly connected, so knowledge and technological advances travel quickly. Third, lower cost of products. Globalization allows companies to find lower cost ways to produce their products. It also increases global competition, which drives prices down and creates a larger variety of choices for consumers. Fourth, higher standards of living across the globe. Developing nations experience an improved standard of living. Across the globe, billions of people have moved out of extreme poverty thanks to globalization. Fifth, access to new markets. Businesses gain a great deal from globalization. It is easier than ever to employ workers in other countries quickly and compliantly. This means that for many companies, there is no longer the need to establish a foreign entity to expand overseas. Sixth, access to new talent. In addition to new markets, globalization allows companies to find new, specialized talent that is not available in their current market. From virtual connections to more affordable goods, such as clothing and food, globalization has been beneficial to many aspects of society. This is because globalization has led to reduced costs of goods and increased trade.
So today, I will discuss some disadvantages of globalization. Number 1. Globalization doesn't fix a lack of skills. The future of employment involves programming, robotics, and artificial intelligence. Workers who adapt to automation with their skill sets are the most likely to find employment in the coming generation. Jobs which require repetitive function will be the first to go away, which are employment opportunities often found in the developing world. With no meaningful skills to a globalized economy, there could be a higher unemployment rate if border restriction reduce, because only those in the developed world would be a chain for a new economy. Number 2 is globalization may encourage more offshoring instead of less. With fewer restrictions in place at the national level, some businesses may use offshoring to their advantage. Even if they kept jobs local, the threat of sending jobs to a different, cheaper regions overseas could be used to justify lower wages at home. The end result of an effort to remove borders would be increase in wages in the developing world, but a decrease in developing countries. Many households could see their standards of living go down if consumable price decrease don't occur simultaneously. And the last disadvantages is globalization changes how humans would identify themselves. Humans are global citizens in some ways already. We all share the same planet. After all, so we are united with that common ground. If we lose borders, however, we also lose a piece of our culture, ethnicity, or family heritage.
Critics of globalizations include groups such as environmentalists, anti-poverty campaign, and trade heroes. The negative impacts are: the first one is the growth of international trade is exacerbating income inequality in between and industrialized or less nations. The second one is global commerce is increasingly dominated by transnational corporations which seeks to maximize profits without regard of developing needs of individual countries or local populations. Next is competition among developing countries to attract foreign investments leads to a race to the bottom in which countries dangerously lower environmental standards. The next one is developing nations are exposed to toxic or dangerous technologies. Next is hazardous products are pushed to developing countries in form of pesticides, pharmaceutical drugs, and contraceptives. The next is requires high doses of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, agricultural machinery, and irrigations. Increasing fossil fuel combustion emits gases and particles in the atmosphere. Increased affluence is assigned with increased generation of waste and energy-related pollutants degradation due to agribusiness and logging. The last one is increased environmental degradation from factories in countries without protection laws.
If you look at how globalization is defined in the literature and based on the activity above, there are diverging views about globalization. Stagletz and Pike, 2004. Some authors highlight the positive economic impact of globalization, such as on the level of employment and balance of trade. Chrysler and Neville, 2016. On the other hand, some highlight the negative impact of globalization, specifically the inequity among countries and between the rich and the poor.